The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets in the stuffy classroom of Lincoln High. But Ember Hayes couldn't hear them over the venomous whisper that sliced through the air like a switchblade. "Freak," hissed from the back row, where Tommy Hargrove, the star quarterback with his Letterman jacket slung over his chair like a trophy, leaned back smirking, his buddies snickering in echo. Ember's chalk snapped in her fist mid-sentence, white dust crumbling to the floor as she turned, her green eyes locking onto the sea of 16-year-old faces, some averted in shame, others gleaming with the cruel thrill of the pack. In that frozen heartbeat, the room's oxygen vanished, and Ember felt the weight of every sidelong glance she'd ignored for months crash down. She wasn't just their teacher anymore. She was the dyke who dared to love out loud in Bible Belt, Tennessee. Started with a kiss. Not hers got. No. She'd been careful, locking that part of herself away like a family heirloom in a fireproof safe. But Sarah Klein, the shy poet in the front row with ink-stained fingers and a notebook full of whispered verses, had seen it all. A stolen moment in the parking lot after the fall pep rally, Ember's hand lingering too long on Alex Rivera's waist as they laughed under the stadium lights. Alex, the guidance counselor with her easy smile, and the kind of warmth that made Ember forget the world's sharp edges. Sarah's gasp had rippled outward like a stone in a pond, and by Monday, the slurs were graffiti on her classroom door. "Teacher Tramp loves pussy." Ember wiped it away with trembling hands before homeroom. But the stain lingered, invisible ink burning into her skin. Now, 3 weeks into the nightmare, the class had devolved into open warfare. Books slammed shut not in boredom, but in orchestrated protest whenever Ember mentioned Whitman or Woolf, anything that smacked of that lifestyle, as Principal Harlan Graves had sneered in their closed-door meeting last Friday. "Keep it professional, Miss Hayes," he'd said, his jowls quivering under the American flag pin on his lapel, eyes flicking to the faded photo on his desk, him and the mayor at the annual prayer breakfast. "We don't tolerate distractions here." Lincoln High builds character, not confusion. Ember had bitten her tongue, tasting blood. Because what could she say? That confusion was the only thing keeping her sane in this godforsaken town of strip malls and Sunday sermons, where love thy neighbor meant as long as she stayed in the closet. But today, as the bell rang and the students filed out like soldiers on leave, Tommy brushing past her with a muttered perv that carried just loud enough for the hallway to hear, Ember didn't follow. She sank into her desk chair, the wooden slats creaking under her slight frame, and pulled out her phone. A text from Alex glowed on the screen. "Lunch in the courtyard? Need to see your face." Red heart. Ember's thumb hovered, a ghost of a smile tugging at her lips despite the ache. Alex was her anchor, the one person who'd seen the real her, not the poised educator with the meticulously planned lesson on The Great Gatsby and its illusions of the American dream, but the woman who'd fled California after her parents' ultimatum, trading ocean waves for Tennessee humidity just to prove she could build something unbreakable. Alex, with her Puerto Rican roots and the lilt in her voice that whispered me amor in stolen moments, had cracked that armor wide open over coffee in the teacher's lounge 6 months ago. One shared eye roll at Harlan's homophobic joke about rainbow flags, and suddenly, Ember was alive again, kissing in Alex's Prius after dark, fingers tangled in sheets at Alex's apartment overlooking the Cumberland River, whispering dreams of escaping to Nashville where queer bars pulsed like heartbeats. Yet even that sanctuary felt fragile now. Ember typed back, "Can't." Hiding from the witch hunt. She hit send, then buried her face in her hands, the scent of chalk and teenage sweat clinging to her skin. The scorn wasn't just words, it was a slow poison. Note slipped into her mailbox. "We know what you do with Coach Ramirez's wife." Lies. Vicious and baseless. But they spread like kudzu, choking her reputation. Parents had started pulling kids from her electives, whispering about indoctrination. And Harlan? He'd called her into his office again yesterday, his voice oily with false concern. Ember. Darlin'. This is a small town. Folks talk. Maybe take some leave. She'd stared him down, her voice steady as steel. I'm not going anywhere. Principal Graves. My students need me. But as she left, she caught the flicker in his eyes, something darker than disapproval. Like a man guarding a vault of skeletons. The courtyard beckoned anyway. A sliver of autumn sun filtering through the oaks that ringed Lincoln High's faded quad. Ember slipped out the side door, her boots crunching on fallen leaves the color of old blood. And there was Alex, perched on the stone bench with 2 steaming mugs from the diner's drive-thru, black coffee for Ember, chai latte for her. 32. Alex carried herself with the quiet grace of someone who'd fought her own battles, the daughter of immigrants who'd clawed her way through Vanderbilt on scholarships, only to land in Harlan's web of favoritism and backroom deals. Her dark hair was pulled into a loose bun today, a few strands escaping to frame her face. And when she looked up, those brown eyes held Ember's like a lifeline tossed into a storm. You look like hell, Alex said softly, handing over the cup. No pity. Just truth, the kind that bound them tighter. Ember sank beside her, their thighs brushing in that electric way that still sent sparks up her spine. Class was a circus. Tommy Hargroves got the whole back row chanting Bible verses at me now. Leviticus this. Abomination that. Swear. If one more kid calls me a groomer, I'll. Hey. Alex's hand found hers, thumb tracing circles on her knuckles. You're tougher than this place. Remember what you said last night? We're building our own world. Just you and me. Ember leaned in, forehead to Alex's, inhaling the faint jasmine of her shampoo. I know. But it's getting harder to breathe. She pulled back, searching Alex's face. What about you? Harlan's been riding you hard on those college rec letters. Anything I should know? Alex's smile faltered. Just for a second, a crack in the facade. Same old. He's pushing for more traditional kids in the Ivy pipeline. Like diversity's a quota to fill. Not a right. She squeezed Ember's hand. But enough about him. Tell me something good. What's the latest from your poet? Sarah. She's still scribbling sonnets about forbidden love. Ember chuckled. The sound rusty but real. Yeah. Slipped me one yesterday. Roses bleed red in the garden of thorns. Kids got talent. If not subtlety, they fell into easy rhythm then. Trading stories like currency. Alex's win with a troubled freshman on the edge of dropout. Ember's breakthrough debate on identity in Invisible Man. 420 stolen minutes. The world shrank to this bench. This touch. This woman who made Ember believe in happy endings amid the wreckage. But as the lunch bell tolled, reality intruded. Footsteps crunched nearby, too deliberate to be casual. Ember glanced up to see Coach Ramirez, Harlan's right-hand bulldog, lumbering toward them with a clipboard clutched like a shield. Mid-40s. Built like a retired linebacker gone to seed. His eyes narrowed at their joined hands before flicking away. Rivera. Hayes. Principal wants a word. Staff meeting. Now. Alex's grip tightened. A silent what the hell? Passing between them. Ember stood first, brushing leaves from her jeans. Chin lifted. Lead the way. Coach. The conference room smelled of stale donuts and desperation. The long oak table scarred from years of budget cuts and closed-door haggling. Harlan Graves presided at the head like a king on a thrift store throne. His paunch straining against a polo shirt emblazoned with the school mascot, a snarling rebel. Rebel yell and all. Though they'd updated it post-2020 to look less like a Confederate ghost. Around the table, Alex to Ember's left. Coach Ramirez grunting into his chair. Lydia from history nursing a perpetual migraine. And a handful of others who'd shown up bleary-eyed from their own battlegrounds. "Appreciate y'all comin' on short notice," Harlan drawled. His southern drawl thickening like molasses when he was cornered. "Got a situation. Board meeting tomorrow. And parents are riled up. Complaints about curriculum." His gaze slid to Ember. Heavy as an accusation. Specifically, how some teachers are pushing agendas that don't align with our values. The room tensed. Forks pausing mid-air over the untouched pastries. Ember's pulse thrummed in her ears. But she kept her voice level. "If you're talking about my class, Principal Graves, we've covered the same syllabus for years. Ellison. Hughes American Lit that challenges everyone. Not just challenges." Harlan barked a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Folks say it's indoctrination. That you're influencing the girls." He leaned forward. Fingers steepled. "We got videos circulatin'. You and Counselor Rivera. Getting cozy in the lot. Inappropriate. Plain and simple." Ember's blood turned to ice. Videos. Her mind raced to that night, the rally, the kiss, the shadows. Someone had been watching. Recording. And now it was ammunition in Harlan's war. Alex shifted beside her. Breath hitching. But Ember felt her hand under the table. "Fierce squeeze, we're in this." "Those are private moments," Alex said. Her voice steady as river stone. "Between consenting adults." "That's a problem. Maybe the problem's with the surveillance state you're building here." Coach Ramirez snorted. "Consenting adults on school property? That's fraternization. And with the rumors, well, we can't have that spread into the kids." Rumors. The word hung like smoke, choking the air. Ember's mind flashed to the notes. The whispers. The way Tommy's sneer had deepened this week. Like he'd been fed fresh fuel. Then it clicked. Harlan's flicker yesterday. The way he'd avoided her eyes. This wasn't just about her, it was a diversion. A smokescreen for something rotten at the core of Lincoln High. "I've had enough," Ember said. Rising so fast her chair scraped like a gunshot. "If you want to drag my personal life through the mud to appease a few bigots, fine. But don't pretend it's about education. We all know what's really going on here, the donations from the mayor's PAC. They overlooked grades for athletes who can't read their own playbooks. The way funds for arts vanish while the football fields got new turf every season." Harlan's face purpled. "Sit down. Hayes. That's insubordination." "No." Ember's voice echoed off the walls. Raw and unyielding. "I'm done sitting. And tomorrow, so will the whole damn town." She stormed out. Alex on her heels. The door slamming like a guillotine. In the hallway, Alex pulled her into an alcove. Their bodies pressed close in the dim light. "What was that?" "Videos, Ember. If they leak those, they won't." Ember cupped Alex's face, thumbs brushing away a stray tear. "Because I'm ending this. All of it." She kissed her then. Fierce and desperate. tasting salt and fear and the wild hope that had drawn them together. But as their lips parted, Ember's resolve hardened into something sharper. Revenge? Not for the slurs or the scorn, but for the lie that had festered here too long. Harlan's secret, the one she'd pieced together from overheard calls and pilfered emails, wasn't just graft, it was a predator in their midst. Coach Ramirez, shielded by Harlan's blind eye, preying on vulnerable girls under the guise of extra training, Sarah Klein had confessed it in a tear-soaked note last week. Her sonnet a cry for help. The coach's hands are thorns, drawing blood in the dark gym. Ember had buried it then, terrified of the fallout. But no more. The scorn had stripped her bare. Now, she'd burn it all down. That night, in Alex's apartment, the Cumberland murmured beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, a silver thread under the harvest moon. They made love like it was the last time, slow, reverent. Ember's fingers mapping the curves she'd memorized like sacred text. Alex's gasps a litany against the storm. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of them, Alex traced the freckles across Ember's collarbone. You're really doing it, aren't you? Exposing him. Ember nodded, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. I have to. For Sarah. For every kid they've broken. She turned, meeting Alex's eyes. But if it costs us, it won't. Alex's voice cracked, but her gaze held steady. I love you, Ember Hayes. Scorned or not, you're the fire I didn't know I needed. Dawn crept in like a thief, painting the room in bruised purples. Ember slipped out before Alex woke, leaving a note on the pillow. Meet me at the auditorium. 7 p.m. Our world starts tonight. She spent the day in a blur, teaching through gritted teeth. Tommy's taunts bouncing off her like rain on tin. Sarah's wide eyes meeting hers in silent plea. By afternoon, the pieces were in place. Copies of Ramirez's emails to Harlan, begging for cover-ups. Sarah's sworn statement, notarized at the diner's notary aunt. A USB drive of security footage Ember had swiped from the AV closet. Time-stamped horrors in grainy black and white. The auditorium filled slowly that evening, the air thick with rumor and rain-scented wind rattling the rafters. Students trickled in first, drawn by whispers of a mandatory assembly, then parents in church dresses and work boots, teachers clustering like birds before a hurricane. Harlan arrived last, flanked by Ramirez, his face a mask of bluster. What's this nonsense? Hayes, you got no authority. Ember stepped to the podium, microphone crackling to life. The spotlight hit her like Judgment Day, illuminating the exhaustion etched in her 28 years, the fine lines from too many unshed tears, the auburn hair wild from the day's frenzy. But her voice? Boomed, clear as a bell tolling midnight. Lincoln High. We've built our secrets on silence. Tonight, that ends. She clicked the projector, and the screen flickered to life. Ramirez's shadow in the gym, a girl's silhouette shrinking away. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sarah's mother clutching her husband's arm. Tommy's jaw unhinging in betrayal. Harlan lunged for the cord, but Alex was there, blocking him with quiet fury. Her hand on his chest. No more. Harlan. It's over. The floodgates broke then, testimonies spilling from lips long sealed. Parents rising in outrage. The mayor's wife paling as her husband's donations unraveled on screen. Ember spoke through it all. Her words a torrent. They scorned me for loving a woman. Called me unnatural. A threat. But the real monsters, they're the ones who hid in plain sight. preying on our children while preaching family values. Chaos reigns, shouts. Sirens wailing distant as cops arrived. Ramirez in cuffs. Harlan's empire crumbling in real time. Ember stepped back, bent, until Alex pulled her into the wings. Their embrace a harbor amid the gale. "You did it," Alex whispered, lips brushing her temple. "You saved us all." But as the crowd dispersed into the storm, Ember caught Tommy's eye across the aisle, not scorn now, but something raw. Like the boy glimpsed the man he could be. Sarah approached, notebook clutched like armor, and hugged her tight. "Thank you, Hayes, for seeing me." In the aftermath, Lincoln High fractured and reformed, Harlan resigned in disgrace, Ramirez faced trial, a new principal vowing transparency. Ember kept her job, though the board's investigation into her lifestyle dragged like a shadow. But the whispers faded, replaced by tentative alliances, a rainbow pin on Tommy's backpack, Sarah's poem in the school paper, dedicated to the teacher who burned the thorns. Ember and Alex? They bought a fixer-upper in East Nashville. Weekends spent painting walls and planting gardens. Nights wrapped in each other under stars that felt less judgmental. Love, Ember learned, wasn't the fairy tale. It was the fight. The scorn survived, the secrets shattered, the heart that refused to hide. And in the quiet mornings, with Alex's head on her chest, Ember whispered to the dawn, "We built it. Our world. Unbreakable." The rain had stopped by the time Ember pulled into the driveway of their new home, the gravel crunching under her Subaru's tires like brittle bones. It was a squat craftsman bungalow on the edge of East Nashville, the kind of place that whispered promises of porches and picket fences if you ignored the peeling paint and the way the foundation sagged like an old man's shoulders. But to Ember, it was salvation, a far cry from the cramped apartment above the laundromat where she'd first tasted freedom after college, fleeing her parents' San Diego suburb where disappointment hung in the air like smog. Here, with Alex, could be home, if they let it. Inside, the air smelled of fresh sawdust and takeout Thai, Alex's half-hearted attempt at dinner after a 12-hour shift at the crisis center. She was sprawled on the drop cloth in the living room, surrounded by paint cans the color of desert sunsets, her overalls streaked with ochre. 32. Alex wore exhaustion like a badge, her olive skin glowing under the bare bulb, dark waves escaping her ponytail to frame a face that still stole Ember's breath. "You're late," she teased, wiping her hands on a rag. "Thought the board meeting ate you alive." Ember dropped her bag by the door, the weight of the day sloughing off like mud. Close. Harlan's ghost is still haunting the budget talks, legacy costs, they call it. Like covering up child abuse is a line item, she crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling Alex up into a kiss that tasted of curry and relief. "Missed you." Alex melted into it, hands sliding under Ember's sweater to trace the familiar planes of her back. "Missed this," she murmured against Ember's lips, pulling back just enough to search her eyes. "How are you holding up? Really?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Ember sank onto the cloth, tugging Alex down with her. "Some days, I wake up waiting for the other shoe. Like, any minute, the town will remember I'm the dyke who blew the whistle." She laughed, bitter-edged. "Tommy Hargrove cornered me in the hall today, apologized. Actually, said his dad's on the city council now, pushing for better reporting protocols. Kid's got potential, if he doesn't drown in toxic masculinity first." Alex's fingers intertwined with hers, a quiet anchor. You gave him the chance to see it. That's more than most get. She paused, her thumb stilling. But what about us? The board sniffing around your relationship again. I heard Lydia whispering, thinks we should tone it down for the sake of appearances. Ember's jaw tightened, the old fire flickering. Lydia, with her pearl-clutching history lectures on traditional American values, had been Harlan's echo chamber long before the fall. Let her whisper. I'm done toning down. She rolled to face Alex fully, propping on one elbow. Remember our first real date? That dive bar in Printer's Alley. You in that red dress that made my knees weak. Us dancing to Dolly like the world was ending. Alex's eyes softened, a smile blooming. How could I forget? You stepped on my toes twice, blamed the whiskey, then whispered you'd follow me anywhere. I would. I will. Ember's voice dropped, husky with intent. Marry me, Alex. Not tomorrow. Not when the dust settles tonight. Here, on this godforsaken drop cloth, with paint in your hair and tie on our breath. Say yes, and we'll make this place ours. No more hiding. No more scorn. Tears welled in Alex's eyes, spilling over as she laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gale. Yes. God. Yes. They kissed again. Slower this time. The kind that sealed vows in sweat and sighs. Bodies moving in rhythm to an unspoken symphony. Afterward, tangled and breathless, they lay staring at the ceiling's water stains, dreaming aloud, adoptions maybe. One day, a garden for Sarah's poetry readings, walls lined with books that dared to love without apology. But dawn brought the reckoning. Ember's phone buzzed at 6 a.m. The screen lighting the dim room like a flare. Board emergency session. Your conduct under review. Be there by 8. Alex stirred, concern etching her features. Go, she said, kissing Ember's forehead. Fight like hell. I'll be there after my shift. Lincoln High's boardroom felt smaller than ever. The air conditioner wheezing like a dying lung. The long table ringed by faces Ember had once trusted. The superintendent with his wire-rimmed glasses and perpetual frown. The PDA president, Tommy's mom, ironically, fidgeting with her cross necklace. And Lydia, perched like a vulture in pearls. No Harlan. Thank God. But his specter loomed in the agenda. Teacher conduct and school culture post-incident. Miss Hayes, the superintendent began. His voice clipped New England. Your actions last spring were commendable in intent. The Ramirez matter was handled appropriately through channels. A beat, then the hammer. However, your personal life has become a distraction. Multiple complaints cite inappropriate displays of affection on school grounds. We've received footage. Footage. Ember's laugh was sharp, echoing off the paneled walls. The same doctored clips Harlan's cronies leaked to smear me? Or the new ones? From busybody custodians with grudges. She leaned forward, green eyes flashing. Let's cut the bullshit. This isn't about PDAs. It's about control. You can't fire me for loving a woman, that's discrimination. And my lawyer's ACLU contact is itching for a case. Murmurs rippled. Tommy's mom cleared her throat, cheeks flushing. Ember, may I call you that? My boys changed because of you. That assembly. It opened eyes. But the Bible also says love your neighbor. Ember cut in. Softer now. Humanistic core shining through the rage. I'm not here to convert anyone. I'm here to teach kids to think, to feel, to stand up when it counts. That's a threat. And I'm guilty. The room fell silent. The AC's droned the only sound. Lydia shifted. Lips pursed. But the superintendent sighed, rubbing his temples. No one's talking termination, Miss Hayes. But discretion. Discretion got girls hurt. Ember stood. Chair scraping final. Suspend me if you must. But know this. The secret you buried with Harlan? It's not staying buried. Every parent, every kid, they deserve the truth about what else he covered. She walked out into the October chill. Leaves swirling like confetti in defeat. Her phone buzzed again. Alex. Heard from Lydia. You okay? Love you. Ember typed back. Thumbs flying better than okay. We're free. Freedom tasted bittersweet that afternoon. Ember drove aimlessly. Windows down. Country radio crooning Patty Loveless about girls chasing rainbows. She ended up at the old auditorium, now half renovated with grant money from the scandal's fallout. New lights, fresh paint, a stage that gleamed under fluorescent hope. Sarah was there, rehearsing for the fall play. Her lanky frame draped in a thrift store gown, voice trembling through Ophelia's madness. 17. She was all elbows and epiphanies, ink still staining her fingers. MS. Hayes, Sarah beamed, dropping character. Heard about the meeting. You tell him. Ember leaned against the proscenium, arms crossed. Something like that. She studied the girl, the brave tilt to her chin, the notebook peeking from her bag. How's the lead feel? Heavy, Sarah shrugged. But her eyes betrayed the weight. Scary. But good scary. Like, for once, I'm not hiding. Pause. Then, you saved me. You know. From him. From thinking I was broken. You're not broken. Kid. You're a force. Ember's throat tightened. And hey, if you ever need a sounding board for that next sonnet, my door's open. Even if it's just a metaphorical one for a bit. The suspension came down that evening, 2 weeks. Unpaid. For the good of the district. Alex met her at the door with wine and a fierce hug. Their dinner a picnic on the living room floor amid paint-splattered chaos. To hell with them, Alex toasted. Clinking glasses. We've got each other. And Nashville? She's got our backs. They spent the suspension painting walls first, then each other. Laughter echoing as brushes turned to caresses. Ember took odd jobs tutoring online, guest spots at the Queer Youth Center where Alex volunteered. Her stories of Lincoln High drawing crowds of wide-eyed teens hungry for heroes. One night, over rooftop beers at a drag bar pulsing with Gloria Gaynor, a girl no older than Sarah sidled up. Heard you're the teacher who torched her school. That true? Ember grinned, arm around Alex's waist. Torched? Nah. Just lit a match under the bullshit. Word spread. As it does in tight-knit queer circles, podcasts buzzing about the Tennessee whistleblower, a local paper profile framing Ember as the reluctant revolutionary. But glory was fleeting. Doubt crept in like fog off the river. Late one night, Ember woke to Alex's quiet sobs. The bed cold where warmth should be. Talk to me, Ember whispered, pulling her close. Alex wiped her eyes. Voice small. It's nothing. Just. The center's grant got pulled. Harlan's old donors. Pulling strings. And I got this email from my family back in San Juan. Choose, us or this sin. Like loving you is a switch I can flip. Ember's heart cracked open. Raw and aching. Then choose us. Or them. But no, I'll fight for you either way. She kissed Alex's temple, holding her through the tremors. We're human. Mi amor. Messy. Guard. But real. That's the romance. No princes. Just us. Building from the ruins. The suspension ended on a Monday crisp as apple cider. Ember striding into Lincoln High with head high. Alex's ring. A simple gold band engraved our world, winking on her finger. The halls buzzed. But the slurs were gone. Replaced by nods. Even a fist bump from Tommy as he passed. Welcome back. Ush. Teams reading your rec for state. Class that day. Electric. She dove into the color purple. Celie's voice a mirror to their own scars. And when Sarah raised her hand, is forgiveness possible after betrayal? Ember paused. Seeing the layers, Ramirez. Harlan. The town's complicit silence. Sometimes, she said. Voice steady. If the betrayer's willing to change. But you? You forgive for you. Not them. Let the thorns grow back into roses. After school. Alex waited in the parking lot, no hiding now. Hand in hand under the stadium lights. They kissed goodbye. Unhurried. The world watching or not. But as Ember drove home, her rearview caught a tail. A black SUV. Nondescript. Harlan's old ride? Paranoia. Maybe. Or the loose end she'd left dangling. That night, the call came. Anonymous. Voice distorted. You think it's over. Hayes, dig too deep. And you'll bury yourself. Click. Ember's hand shook as she dialed Alex. Pack a bag. We're not waiting for the storm, we're outrunning it. The highway unspooled like a black ribbon under the sodium glow of interstate lights. Nashville's skyline shrinking in the rearview as Ember gripped the wheel. Knuckles white as bone. It was past midnight. The Subaru humming with the low thrum of escape. Clothes crammed into duffels. Alex's cat carrier mewling from the back seat. A playlist of Lucinda Williams crooning about reckless hearts. Alex slept against the passenger window. Her head lolling at an awkward angle. Dark hair fanned across the glass like spilled ink. 32. She looked younger in repose. The worry lines smooth. But Ember knew the toll. The job loss at the center. The family ultimatum echoing like a ghost. The way she'd clung to Ember that last night in the bungalow. Whispering don't let go as if love were a rope fraying in the wind. Ember hadn't told her about the call. Not yet. The voice gravelly, laced with that fake southern polish, had slithered through the line like venom. Harlan's got friends in high places. Hayes. Mayor's office. The sheriff. You exposed one secret. We've got yours. Yours. Plural. Meaning Alex. Their life. The ring she'd slipped on in a moonlit ceremony at Shelby Bottoms. Vows exchanged with the river as witness. Meaning the photos that surfaced online that afternoon. Grainy shots of them at the drag bar. Caption Lincoln High's finest. Recruiting on the down low. The board suspension was a slap. This was a shank to the gut. She'd lied to Alex about the spontaneous road trip, framing it as a romantic detour to Memphis for Beale Street blues and a second-line parade. But truth gnawed at her. This wasn't romance, it was running. From the scorn that lingered like cigarette smoke in the halls. From Tommy's earnest thanks tainted by his father's counsel whispers. From Sarah's latest note, college app sent. Your fault. Ush. Grateful. Grateful. The word twisted in Ember's chest. A reminder of the good she'd sown amid the thorns. Leaving felt like betrayal. But staying? That was suicide. Dawn broke over the Mississippi, a bloody smear on the horizon as they crossed into Arkansas. Alex stirred, blinking at the flatlands scrolling by. Where are we? No alarm. Just sleepy curiosity. Her hand finding Ember's thigh in that instinctive way that grounded them. About 2 hours from Little Rock. Figured we'd crash at that B&B you love, the one with the clawfoot tubs and pecan waffles. Ember forced a grin. But her eyes flicked to the mirror. Empty road. No SUV. Yet. Alex stretched. Cat purring in her lap now. This is perfect. No boardroom BS. No donor drama. Just us. She leaned over, kissing Ember's cheek. The touch lingering. I love you for this. For always seeing the escape hatch when I'm buried in the fight. Ember swallowed the lump in her throat. Love you more. For fighting at all. She thought. Remembering their first clash not with the world, but each other. That coffee-fueled rant in the lounge. Alex's fire matching Ember's. 2 women who'd armored up against the same storms. Alex. Disowned at 19 for a girlfriend's handhold at family mass. Ember. 22 and shattered when her mom's prayer circle tried an exorcism for her confusion. They'd bonded over scars. Built a love fierce as kudzu, romantic in stolen sunsets. Dramatic in midnight confessions. Humanistic in the way they lifted each other's broken pieces without demand. Little Rock welcomed them with autumn blaze. Oaks aflame in gold and crimson. The B&B a Victorian relic on the river bluffs. Its hostess a silver-haired widow named May who eyed their joined hands with a wink. Y'all take the suite with the balcony. Views to die for, and breakfast at 8 sharp. Inside. The room was a cocoon of lace and lavender. The king bed piled with quilts that smelled of sun-dried summers. They tumbled into it, shedding road weariness in a tangle of limbs and laughter. Alex's body arching under Ember's like a bow drawn taut. Here, Alex gasped between kisses. In this bed that's seen 100 honeymoons, we're safe. Safe. The word echoed hollow as Ember traced the curve of Alex's hip, committing it to memory. They made love with the windows open. River breeze cooling sweat-slick skin. The distant hum of barges a lullaby. Afterward, Alex traced lazy patterns on Ember's stomach. Voice dreamy. What if we stayed? Ditch teaching for something new, you writing that memoir everyone's bugging you for. Me counseling at a co-op. Build a life without the baggage. Ember's heart stuttered. Tempting. But the phone in her pocket buzzed. Unknown number. Voicemail ticking in. She slipped away to the balcony. The Arkansas sun gilding the water below. And played it haze. It's Lydia. Don't hang up. Harlan Spinning Tales says you fabricated the emails. Coerced Sarah. Boards reconvening. Come back. Or it'll get uglier. Click. Ugly. As if it wasn't already, a witch hunt dressed as due process. The scorn metastasizing from personal to professional crucifixion. Ember gripped the railing, knuckles paling, until Alex's arms wrapped around her from behind. Bad news. Always. Ember turned, burying her face in Alex's neck. Harlan's rallying the troops. Accusing me of lies. Of everything. If I don't go back, they revoke my credential. Ruin me. Alex pulled back. Eyes fierce. Then we fight. Together. Call the ACLU. Leak to the press, hell? Drive to the Capitol and chain ourselves to the steps. You're not facing this alone. But Ember saw the fracture. Alex's job prospects tanking in the crossfire. Her family's door slamming shut forever. And you? This life we want, kids. Garden. All of it starts with us whole. I won't drag you into the pyre. Alex's laugh was tear-choked. Drag me? Ember. You're my pyre. The fire that woke me up. She cupped Ember's face. Thumbs fierce. Betrayal's coming, Harlan. The town. Maybe even me if I crack under the weight. But love? That's the climax. The deep cut that heals human. We choose it anyway. They chose. Then, booked a flight to DC that afternoon. May waving them off with a thermos of coffee and a gruff, give 'em hell. Loves. The plane ride was a blur of turbulence and takeout peanuts. Alex's head on Ember's shoulder. Their hands clasped like prayer. Washington hit like a fever dream. Marble halls echoing with lobbyists' heels. The ACLU office a hive of sharp-suited saviors who pored over Ember's files with grim nods. Solid case, their lead counsel said. A no-nonsense dyke in her 50s with a buzzcut and wedding band. Harlan's desperate. His friends are the sheriff's poker buddies. Not power players. We'll bury him in depositions. But the climax crashed that first night. In a sterile hotel overlooking the Potomac. Ember's phone lit up mid-dinner, Sarah's name flashing. MS. Hayes, it's bad. They suspended me from the play. Said my testimony makes me unreliable. Mom's freaking thinks I lied about everything. Ember's fork clattered. You didn't lie. Hold on. Kid. We're coming back. This ends now. Alex's eyes met hers across the room service tray. A silent vow. They flew standby to Memphis at dawn. Rented a car that reeked of fast food. And barreled toward Lincoln under skies heavy with thunder. The storm broke as they crested the hills. Rain sheeting like divine wrath. Wipers slashing frantic arcs. This is it, Ember said. Voice steady amid the roar. The exposure, all of it. Or nothing. Alex nodded. Hand on her knee. All. Lincoln High loomed like a battered fortress. The parking lot a media circus, vans from Memphis stations. Reporters milling under umbrellas. Parents clustered in knots of fury and fear. Harlan was there. Center stage on the steps. Megaphone in hand. This so-called teacher destroyed our community. Lies. All lies. Ember killed the engine. Rain drumming the roof. Ready. With you? Always. They emerged into the deluge. Hands linked. Umbrellas be damned. Cameras flashed. Mics thrust forward. But Ember pushed through. Alex a shield at her side. Up the steps. Past Harlan's spluttering face, pale as milk under the downpour, to the auditorium doors. Now flung wide for the emergency town hall. Inside. The house was packed. Board members sweating on the dais. Sarah in the front row clutching her mom. Tommy and his dad arguing in the aisle. Lydia's pearls glinting like accusations. Ember seized the mic. Water dripping from her hair. Voice amplified to thunder. You want truth? Here it is. Harlan Graves didn't just cover for a predator. He was one. Emails. Videos. Witness statements. He traded silence for favors. From the mayor's zoning deals to the sheriff's blind eye. And me? Scorned for loving this woman. She pulled Alex forward. Their drenched hands gleaming under the spots. But I won't let your hate rewrite history. The room detonated. Cries of outrage. Harlan lunging only to be tackled by deputies. Sarah rising with a sob. She saved me. Chaos swirled. But Ember held the stage. Alex's grip her North Star. Spilling the final secrets, forged audits. Silenced complaints. A web of rot that had choked Lincoln High for years. Federal agents swarmed by night's end. Harlan in zip cuffs. The board dissolving in scandal. Ember and Alex slipped out into the clearing storm. The town parting like the Red Sea, some with glares, others nods of awe. Tommy caught them at the lot. Ms. Ush. Sorry. For everything. Forgiven, Ember said, clapping his shoulder. Now go build something better. Home was the bungalow. Lights on like a beacon. They collapsed on the porch swing. Exhausted. Alive. Bi kịch o có hậu. Alex murmured. Head on Ember's lap. Human, Ember replied. Fingers in her hair. The kind where we win. Scarred but standing. Love's the real secret exposed. Unashamed. Months blurred trials. Testimonies. A settlement that funded queer scholarships at Lincoln. Ember taught again. Her class a sanctuary of stories untold. Alex opened a center. Doors wide to the broken. They married proper in spring. Under blooming dogwoods. Sarah's witness. Tommy DJing bad country remixes. The scorn, scarred, but faded, a tattoo of survival. And in quiet nights, with Alex's breath sinking to hers, Ember knew. The biggest secret exposed wasn't Harlan's darkness, but their light fierce, romantic, enduring.